The sneaker began as something almost nobody wanted to wear. For most of history, shoes were stiff, loud, and built from leather and wood. Nothing about them was designed for speed, grip, or comfort, because nobody had a material that could do all three at once. In 1839, Charles Goodyear accidentally discovered vulcanized rubber after dropping a rubber and sulfur mixture onto a hot stove, a material finely durable and flexible enough to be shaped into a proper sole. Rubber-soled canvas shoes followed soon after, quiet enough to walk in without being heard, which is exactly where the name sneaker comes from. By 1892, the U.S. Rubber Company was mass-producing them under a new name, Keds, creating an entirely new category of shoe with no real competition in sight. But then, one company found a sport where sneakers could become something much bigger than a quiet walking shoe. For a while, there was only one real name in basketball footwear, and almost nobody remembers how strange that actually was. Basketball in the early 1900s was played in shoes that weren't built for the sport at all. Poor grip on wooden courts, no ankle support, players slipping and rolling ankles constantly during fast direction changes. In 1917, Converse released the All-Star, a canvas high top built specifically for basketball's stop-start movement. A young semi-professional player named Chuck Taylor became an unpaid but enthusiastic promoter of the shoe, touring the country running basketball clinics wearing them. And in 1932, Converse added his signature to the ankle patch, turning the shoe into the Converse Chuck Taylor All-Star. The shoe went on to dominate basketball for decades, becoming standard issue for U.S. Olympic teams and most professional players through the 1960s. At its peak, its estimated Converse controlled roughly 80 to 90% of the entire basketball shoe market. No one seriously challenged that position for nearly half a century. Then, a small Oregon-based company started with $1,200, and a car trunk full of shoes decided to try. Nike didn't start as a shoe company at all. It started as two men selling shoes out of a car trunk at track meets. In 1964, Phil Knight and his former college coach Bill Bowerman founded Blue Ribbon Sports, initially just importing Japanese running shoes to resell in the U.S. They had no manufacturing capability, no brand recognition, and were entering a running and athletic shoe market where Adidas already dominated globally, while Converse held basketball specifically in a near-total grip. Bowerman began experimenting with outsole design in his own kitchen, famously pouring rubber into his wife's waffle iron to create a lightweight, high-traction tread pattern, the now iconic waffle sole. In 1971, the company rebranded as Nike, named after the Greek goddess of victory, with a logo designed by a graphic design student for just $35. The waffle sole gave Nike's shoes a genuine performance edge that older canvas designs simply couldn't match, and the company began rapidly gaining ground through the 1970s. But Nike was still a distant third in basketball specifically, until they made a bet on a rookie that nobody expected to pay off. Nike almost didn't get Michael Jordan at all. He wanted Adidas, and Adidas said no. By 1984, Nike was still a distant third in basketball behind Converse and Adidas, despite its growing strength in running shoes. That year's NBA draft prospect, a young player out of North Carolina named Michael Jordan, was reportedly a lifelong Adidas fan and hoped to sign with them. But Adidas, in the middle of internal restructuring after founder Adi Dassler's death, never made him a serious offer. Nike, sensing an opening, offered Jordan an unusually large 5-year, $2.5 million contract, a massive bet on a player who hadn't played a single NBA game yet. They built an entire shoe line named directly after him, the Air Jordan. The gamble paid off almost immediately. The original Air Jordan 1, released in 1985, generated an estimated $126 million in sales. Nike had projected roughly $3 million, but the shoe's success came with a problem neither Nike nor Jordan saw coming: the NBA itself. The shoe that made Michael Jordan famous was, for a while, illegal for him to actually wear on an NBA court. The NBA had a uniform policy requiring shoes to be predominantly white, matching a player's team colors. The Air Jordan 1's black and red colorway broke that rule outright, and the league informed Nike the shoes would be banned from gameplay. Instead of backing down, Nike paid the fine on Jordan's behalf every time he wore them, reportedly $5,000 per game, and built an entire ad campaign around the controversy with a voiceover declaring banned by the NBA over footage of Jordan wearing the shoes. The ban, meant to enforce conformity, ended up generating far more publicity than Nike could have manufactured on its own, turning a rule violation into one of the most effective marketing moments in sneaker history. Nike now had a cultural phenomenon on its hands, but its position at the top of the industry was about to be challenged again, this time not by a shoe, but by a fitness trend nobody expected. For 1 year in the late 1980s, Nike wasn't even the biggest sneaker company in the world, Reebok was. Nike had built its identity around performance athletes and basketball culture, but it had almost entirely missed a massive cultural shift happening outside of sports, the aerobics boom. Reebok released the Freestyle in 1982, a soft, lightweight leather shoe designed specifically for aerobics, the first sneaker marketed directly at women rather than adapted from a men's athletic shoe. They followed it in 1989 with the Pump, a shoe with an inflatable internal bladder players could pump up for a custom fit. By 1987, Reebok had overtaken Nike in total sales, becoming the largest athletic shoe company in the world, a position Nike had held a near lock-on for years. Nike's response wouldn't come from a new shoe feature, it would come from reminding people exactly why Nike had gotten this big in the first place. Nike didn't beat Reebok by inventing something new. It beat them by literally showing what was already inside the shoe. By the late 1980s, Reebok held the top spot in the industry, and Nike needed a way to reassert its performance credibility. In 1987, Nike released the Air Max 1, the first sneaker with visible air cushioning built directly into the sole, a design choice that let customers literally see the technology working with every step. Nike paired this with the Bo Knows campaign in 1989, featuring multisport athlete Bo Jackson, one of the most memorable athletic ad campaigns of its era. The combination of visible innovation and star power reestablished Nike's dominance, and by the early 1990s, Nike had reclaimed its position as the largest sneaker company in the world, a lead it has not seriously lost since. With the top spot secured, the sneaker itself was about to change meaning entirely. No longer just something you wore, but something you waited in line and sometimes fought to get. Some sneakers now sell for more than most people's monthly rent, before they've even been worn once. As sneaker culture grew through the 1990s and 2000s, brands realized that scarcity, not just performance, could drive demand. Limited drops, designer collaborations, and celebrity-designed shoes turned sneaker releases into events rather than simple product launches. A single popular release could sell out globally within minutes, spawning a secondary resale market where shoes bought for $200 could resell for $1,000 or more within hours. Some releases have drawn crowds large and chaotic enough to require police presence. The resale sneaker market alone is now estimated to be worth well over $6 billion globally, an entire economy built on top of an object that was originally invented just to be quiet enough to walk in. And no partnership captured both the massive upside and the massive risk of this new hype economy more than one that began as one of the most successful sneaker deals in history and ended in complete collapse. The most profitable sneaker partnership in Adidas's history ended with the company writing off the entire product line rather than keep selling it. In 2013, after a prior partnership with Nike ended over creative and royalty disagreements, musician and designer Kanye West signed with Adidas to launch Yeezy. Yeezy shoes became some of the most sought-after sneakers in the world, regularly reselling for several times their retail price and generating an estimated $1.5 to $2 billion annually for Adidas at its peak. In October 2022, following a series of anti-Semitic public statements made by West, Adidas terminated the partnership entirely, immediately stopping production and sales of all Yeezy products. The decision was projected to cost Adidas hundreds of millions of dollars in lost revenue, and the company was left holding an estimated $500 million worth of unsold inventory. It marked one of the most abrupt endings to a major sneaker partnership in the industry's history. Proof that even the most profitable deal in the business could collapse almost overnight. Today, the sneaker industry looks nothing like it did when Keds first appeared with no competition in sight. Nike and Adidas remain the two biggest players, sharing the space now with Reebok, New Balance, Puma, and dozens of smaller brands fighting for the same shelf space and the same limited drop hype. What started as a quiet, rubber-soled shoe designed to make no noise at all has become one of the loudest, most contested objects in modern culture, and there's no sign the fighting is anywhere close to over.